Walk into a bank with $400 to your name, and they will find a way to charge you for the privilege. Walk in with $100,000, and someone learns your name and asks how your week is going. Same building, same staff, same Tuesday. The only thing that changed is a number sitting in savings. And the reason that number changes everything is not the reason you think. The bank is not being kind. It is being careful. Somewhere on the climb to six figures, you cross a line that flips you from the most profitable customer a bank can have into the least. And once you can see exactly where that line sits, you will never look at your own account the same way again. I am Biscuits J, and I have spent a long time watching how this industry actually makes its money, which is almost never the story the commercials tell. If you have ever stared at a balance that refuses to grow no matter what you do, tap subscribe, because we are about to take the whole machine apart down to the exact dollar where everything flips. Start here, because nothing else lands without it. With money, there is no neutral. Every dollar you hold is either on your payroll, earning for you, or on the meter, costing you. There is no parked. There is no resting. You are always on one side of that line or the other. And most people spend their entire adult lives on the wrong side, quietly paying to hold money they already earned. $100,000 is the moment you step off the meter and put your money on payroll. And money, unlike you, never needs sleep. It shows up every morning and works. Quick disclaimer so the legal team can breathe. I am not a financial advisor. I am a cute anime avatar who looks a little too much like the boss's daughter. And that is because my dad owns the building, which is the whole reason I have a desk here. So treat this as information, not instructions, and bring any real decision to a licensed human who has to sign their name to it. Quick gut check. Your money is not tucked in a little drawer with your name taped to the front. Right now, it is clocked in on a shift you never approved, earning for somebody who is not you. So let us talk about how a bank actually feeds itself, starting with the most revealing number in all of consumer banking. It comes straight from the government's own regulator. Roughly 9% of checking accounts generate close to 80% of every overdraft fee collected. Read that twice. That is not an accident. That is the foundation the whole building stands on. Free checking for the comfortable majority, quietly funded by the people living closest to zero. Addy Industries started pushing back $500 million a year on overdraft and insufficient funds fees alone. $15 billion, charged about $35 at a time to people who were short by about $35. Picture a $4 coffee that quietly detonates a $35 fee. That is the most expensive cup in human history, and somewhere out there, someone buys a version of it every single day. Here is the quiet half of the machine, the half nobody points at. You hand the bank your money, and the national average it pays you to hold it is about 0.4%. On $1,000, that is $4 a year. Then the bank takes that same money and lends it back out into the world at 7, 15, even 22%. The gap between the two has a name, the net interest margin, and it runs around 3.3% across the industry. Your deposit is not sitting in a vault. It is their raw material. Hand a bank $100,000 and it might pay you $400 or $500 a year to keep it. Then it lends your $100,000 back out as someone's car loan, someone's mortgage, someone's credit line, and earns $7,000 or more on the exact same money. You got $400, they got $7,000, and it was your money the whole time. Now sit up, because this is the part that flips everything. The customer a bank loves most is not the one with the heavy balance. It is the one who is always a little bit short. Think about who actually triggers those fees. To dodge an overdraft, you need a cushion. To get your monthly fee waived, most banks make you keep a minimum balance parked and untouched. So the fee waiver, the thing supposedly built to help you avoid fees, only exists for people who already have enough to not need it. If you have the cushion, you never pay. If you do not, you pay every month for the crime of not having the cushion that would let you stop paying. It is an umbrella the bank only hands you once the rain has already stopped. Picture two versions of the same person. Same age, same job, same paycheck landing in the same account. The only difference is the number in savings. The first version is not reckless and not foolish. He had $3,000 saved this time last year until a transmission died and a tooth needed a root canal in the same brutal month. And just like that, he was back down to $400. The spreadsheet does not see any of that. On paper, he is the perfect customer. He overdrafts twice a year. He never clears the minimum balance, so the maintenance fee hits every month. Every swipe of his card kicks a little more back to the bank. In the cold language of accounting, he is profitable. The second version is not a genius. He just keeps his balance high enough that no fee ever triggers. He moved most of his cash somewhere paying real interest, so the bank lost even the cheap spread on him. He reads the rate sheet. He asks for better terms. To the bank, he is no longer a meal. He is overhead. And the whole model is built on having far more of the first version than the second. So how do you stop being the first version? The answer is a single number, the one I promised you at the start. It is about $85,700. That is the line. Let me show you why. Say you put away $500 a month and earn a steady 7% a year, roughly what the market has returned over the long haul after inflation. $500 a month is $6,000 a year going in by hand by your discipline. Now, watch what the money does on its own. At 7%, the moment your balance crosses about $85,700, the interest it throws off in a single year, just over $6,000, becomes larger than everything you add by hand that same year. Sit with that for a second. Below that line, you are the engine. You are the one pushing the car. Above that line, the car is rolling on its own, and your only job is to steer. Your money has quietly taken a job. It punches a clock you never have to wake up for. It out-earns your entire savings habit while you are still asleep with your face in the pillow. It never asks for a raise. It never takes a sick day. It never once tells you it just does not feel appreciated around here. That is a raise your boss did not approve and can never take back. And $85,700 sits right at the doorstep of six figures, which is why the people who actually built wealth obsess over that one number. One of the most respected investors who ever lived put it bluntly: the first $100,000 is brutal, but you have to get it no matter what. Everyone loves to repeat that line. Almost nobody explains why it is true. So watch the math. $500 a month at 7%. Getting from 0 to 100,000 takes about 11 and a half years. Slow, grinding, thankless. This is the exact stretch where the first version of our guy checks his balance, sees a number that has barely moved, decides the whole thing is rigged, and quits. Almost everyone hits that same wall, but watch what happens to the ones who do not quit. Going from 100,000 to 200,000, same 500 a month, same 7%, takes about 6.5 years. The exact same climb in nearly half the time, and it keeps accelerating. The first 10% of the journey to $1 million eats up almost 30% of the total time. The hill is steepest at the very bottom, which is exactly where everyone is standing, exhausted, convinced it is not working. Leave it alone. And it gets almost absurd if you simply stop touching it. Take that 100,000, add nothing more, not one more dollar, and let it sit at 7%. In about 10 years, it roughly doubles to nearly 200,000. Leave it for 30 years, and it becomes about 760,000. $750,000 from a single $100,000, while you do nothing but resist the urge to spend it. The hard work is all loaded at the front. Once the avalanche is moving, your only job is to get out of its way and let it run. So here is the line I want you to carve somewhere you will see it. The first 100,000 is the hardest money you will ever make, and the last million is the easiest. Now, I can already hear the objection. I cannot put away $500 a month. Fair. Maybe it is $250. Maybe right now it is $50. Here is what actually matters. The destination does not move. 6 figures is 6 figures. The door is the door, no matter how fast you walk toward it. Save less, and the crossover point drifts a little further out. And the slow stretch at the bottom of the hill gets longer, true. But the physics on the other side are identical. The money still flips from costing you to paying you. Almost everyone who ever crossed this line spent years convinced they were too far behind to bother. They bothered anyway. Now, let us put real numbers on the gap, because this is where it stops being abstract and starts being something you can feel. The first version of our guy carries a credit card balance, like most people do. The average sits around $6,300 at a rate that has climbed to about 22%. So he pays roughly $1,400 a year in interest for nothing. No product, no vacation, not a single thing. $1,400 a year to rent money he already spent. The second version has his $100,000 sitting somewhere sensible, earning around 4.5%, which drops about $4,500 into his account while he sleeps. Look at the same person, separated only by which side of the line he is standing on. On one side, negative $1,400 a year. On the other, positive $4,500. The swing between those two lives is nearly $6,000 a year before either number compounds. One person's interest compounds against him, the other's compounds for him. Same math, pointed in opposite directions. And if you want the version that really stings, $100,000 borrowed at credit card rates would cost you over $22,000 a year. $100,000 saved earns you $4,500. Same number, same $100,000. The only variable is whether it is yours or theirs. So be honest with yourself for a second. Right now, today, which one are you? The one paying the $1,400 or the one earning the $4,500? There is no shame in the answer. Most people are on the first side, and most got there honestly. But you cannot climb off a side you refuse to admit you are standing on. Now, you might be thinking this is all fine for some imaginary rich person. So let me show you how rare crossing this line actually is. The median American family has a net worth of around $193,000, but almost none of that is cash you can touch. The typical household keeps somewhere around $8,000 across checking and savings combined. $8,000. And survey after survey finds most people could not cover a surprise $1,000 expense without borrowing for it. So $100,000 in actual, liquid, do whatever you want with it savings is maybe one household in 10. There is no comfortable majority waiting for you to catch up. You are trying to walk out of a room almost everyone you know is still sitting in. That is exactly why it feels so hard. Not because you are doing it wrong, but because you are doing something genuinely uncommon. And uncommon always feels lonely while you are in the middle of it. And now I can finally pay off the thread from the very beginning. Remember that relationship manager, the one I said existed for a reason that was not good service? Here it is. The instant you cross the line, you stop being a source of fees and become a target of competition. The bank now has to fight to keep your deposits, so it assigns a living human whose entire job is keeping your $100,000 from walking out the door. That is not warmth, that is retention. Walk into a big bank with $100,000 in combined balances, and you trip a hidden tier that switches on at exactly that number. The monthly fee vanishes. Out-of-network ATM charges get refunded. Your rewards get boosted. Your savings rate gets a bump. The same institution that would have charged the first version of our guy $35 for being short now waives the second version's fees and greets him by name. Nothing about him changed except the number. And the cushion does something bigger than earn interest. It makes him immune to the entire ecosystem that feeds on not having one. He has no reason to touch a payday loan running 400%. No reason to roll a balance. No reason to take the buy now, pay later bait sitting at the checkout. Every predatory product ever invented runs on one fuel, and that fuel is your inability to wait. And this matters more than any single number. What actually changes at 100,000 is not the balance. It is what the balance does to your decisions. With a cushion, you stop choosing from a crouch. You do not take the worst job because you need the check next Friday. You do not say yes to the bad car loan because you have no other option. You can wait. You can walk away. Scarcity makes you small and easy to corner. A cushion makes you patient and almost impossible to take advantage of. You already know what the wrong side feels like, even if you have never put words to it. It feels like checking your balance before you tap your card at the grocery store. It feels like the math you do at 2 a.m. about whether the car making that noise can hold on until next payday. The right side is the absence of all of that. It is saying yes to dinner without the silent calculation. It is seeing the check engine light come on and feeling annoyed instead of afraid. The cushion does not just change your net worth. It changes what your own brain does at 2 a.m. Here is the uncomfortable truth underneath all of it. The system is not rigged by a room full of villains twirling mustaches. It is worse than that. It is simply built around a customer who lives paycheck to paycheck, carries a balance, and occasionally runs short. That customer is the product. The overdraft fees, the swipe fees, the cheap spread, the 22% revolving interest, that is the whole machine, and it runs best when you are stressed and your account is empty. So when people ask why a bank quietly fears someone with 100 grand saved, here is the honest answer. They do not fear you the way you fear a monster. They fear you the way a casino fears the player who stacks his chips and walks away from the table while he is ahead. You did not beat the house. You just stopped playing. And a player who stops playing is the one thing the entire model has no answer for. That is the real reason 100,000 is a threshold and not just a milestone. It is the exit, not a trophy. And that is the whole point. The goal was never just a bigger number on a screen. It is an asset that works whether or not you show up that day. Capital that clocks in while you live your life. The cushion buys you interest, yes, but what it really buys is the freedom to stop pushing the car alone. So think back to the two versions of him from the very beginning. Same age, same job, same kind of paycheck. The only real difference was never income, and it was never luck. It was which side of one line he was standing on. The first version is not lazy and not stupid. He got unlucky with a transmission and a tooth, and he is still in the room, still on the meter, still being charged for the privilege of being short. The second version is not brilliant. He drove the same dented old car for years while everyone told him to treat himself and just kept crossing off the months. Now his money goes to work, so he does not have to push the car alone. Here is the thing to hold on to. That line is not a personality. It is not a talent. It is a number, and numbers can be reached. You do not have to be brilliant to get to the easy side. You have to be stubborn. You have to be patient through the slow years. And you have to refuse to quit in the exact stretch where it feels like nothing is happening, because that is precisely when it is working hardest. Stop renting your money, start owning it, and let the bank lose a little sleep over you for once. Now, before you go cross that line, do it with the right tools in your hand. The ebooks and the financial calculators at Jet Set Wealth Style are sitting in the links below, and unlike your bank, they will not pay you $4 and quietly pocket $7,000. Run your own crossover number. See how close your door really is. Then drop where you are on the journey in the comments so the next person in that room knows they are not alone. Subscribe so the next secret finds you. Quick last reminder, I am still not a financial advisor. This is for learning only, and what you do with your money is on you. Now, go cross the line.